But what matters the most to us is how we were able to grow our capital partners' cash liquidity. Russell, he's a truck driver. In 1 year and 5 months, we grew his cash liquidity to over $63,648. Every time I would come to the title to close with him, his name was James Munger. He would always say, "Hey, Anitra, always remember, he who owns the goal calls the shots."
I started to ask myself, how can we start being on the receiving side of interest instead of paying interest? And what business is the best business to model that collects interest? Anyone can answer? The bank. You got it right. PayPal, Apple, Toyota, Wayfair all have a finance department. When you go buy a car, they offer you financing as well. So essentially, they're trying to make $2 off of one sale. Anitra and I are not here saying stop being a realtor, stop buying and holding, stop fixing and flipping, stop wholesaling. We saying that you have to add finance to what you're doing. Yeah, all right.
So you ready to get it done?
Yeah, I gotta get it done.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Y'all, want to thank Jay. Thanks for inviting us. It's been a long time coming. He asked us last year, but we felt we wasn't really prepared and wanted to take some time to prepare to be here. So it took us a while to get here, but we're finally here. And so I just want to thank him for keeping up with us and keeping in touch with us too. And I want to thank everyone who made it out this evening, and thank y'all for spending y'all evening with us, right? So you probably think we're going to talk about private money lending and all the ins and outs of it. But what if I do that and I add a little extra to that? Would that be okay with you guys?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So my name's Anitra Preston, co-founder of Vertical Capital.
And I'm Elridge Moore, co-founder of Vertical Capital.
And in 2024, last year, we've achieved some incredible results. I graduated from the Goldman Sachs' 10,000 small business cohort, a $40,000 education. We also grew our capital partners' cash liquidity to over $450,000 in one single year. Elridge and I, we actually started off in 2017. We had a wholesale and listing company. We've completed over 300 plus transactions in real estate. That's a $44 million in volume. We also have a multi-million-dollar private money lending company, and we have a $4 million rental portfolio as well. But that's not exciting. But what matters the most to us is how we were able to grow our capital partners' cash liquidity. Russell, he's a truck driver. In 1 year and 5 months, we grew his cash liquidity to over $63,648. Then there's Will, a YouTuber. We grew his cash liquidity in 9 months from 35 to 0 to $35,567. And then there's Keith. He owns over 30 rental units, and we grew his cash liquidity in 7 months at $37,379.
Before we show you how, we first have to talk about the journey. And this is a photo in 2019. Anitra and I attended this 4-day workshop hosted by Anthony Chara. And he was talking about buying apartment buildings. And Anitra and I are very, very ambitious. She mentioned that we were wholesalers and we had a listing company, and we decided to try to do bigger deals, right? And at the workshop, on the very first day, he asked us to introduce ourselves and state how many units you own. So at the time, I probably owned about 5 or 6 units at the time. And they had another guy there probably said he owned 30 units. And my mentors happened to be there as well. And they owned 366 units at the time. And the guy right next to them, he said he owned 366 units as well. But the guy next to him, next to my mentors, was their lender. So if you think about the ownership, right? One owned it as a passive equity partner, and the other ones was the operator. One had to locate the property, manage tenants, do maintenance on the property, and one was just collecting his money and receiving interest. And that was like my epiphany moment of when I decided that I want to be a lender.
For me, it happened, almost 21 years ago. I bought my first property in 2004. So I'm kind of telling my age here or whatever. But bought my first property in 2004. I always knew that I was going to be in real estate, right? So the whole time I was in college, I saved all of my money for my first down payment. So back then, we had to have 20% down no matter what it was, whether you were coming in on investment property or you were coming in on your primary home. So for the 4 years prior, I saved all of my money, and I was preparing to buy my first property. And after I bought that first property, I went on and bought like several other ones, right? And then I used to always close with this one particular title attorney. And every time I would come to the title to close with him, his name was James Munger. He would always say, "Hey, Anitra," he was like, "always remember, he who owns the gold calls the shots." Fast forward, get with me and Elridge, we get in this class, 2019, Anthony, he goes around the country, he's teaching people how to do apartment syndication. Like he said, we think we want to jump into this thing. We start doing these numbers, right? And we start crunching these numbers. We're doing these practice exercises. And it was actually a 16 unit that was down the street from Elridge's house that we were doing this mock acquisition on, right? And so we were going through the numbers, crunching them. And at the end, the numbers came out to be like $16,000 to $18,000 for a year. That's after all the expenses, maintenance, your carrying costs and things of that nature. And I was like, by the time we hit lunchtime, I was like, this ain't it.
It's not for us, yeah.
This is not it. But what did come out of that was that we were in separate groups. I had a guy, his name was Charles. He was like, "Hey, you need to read this book." So this is the book. It's called The Banker's Code by George Anton. So I read a few chapters first, and I said, "Partner, you got to get this book. This is the game changer. This is what we've been looking for," right? And we got the book, and I think we read these books together in like a week.
Yeah.
And then after that, immediately, I remember it was October 2019, we said, "Hey, we need to jump in the lender's seat," right?
Yeah.
And then the following few months in 2020, during COVID, that's when we extended our first loan.
So inside that book, these some of the stats. The average American income, 34.5% of the average American income goes towards interest alone. And 30% of the average American income goes towards taxes, and 5% of the average American income goes towards savings and investing. So after realizing those stats and understanding those stats, I started to ask myself, how can we start being on the receiving side of interest instead of paying interest? And what business is the best business to model that collects interest? Anyone can answer? The bank. You got it right. Anitra and I huddled up and we started to learn the bank process. There's 4 key parts in a bank's process. You have your depositor, the bank, the borrower, and the bank owners. And just think of the bank as the process of lending money, right? So when you deposit money in the bank then lend that money out to the borrower, and then the borrower pays interest to the bank, and the bank pays a little bit of interest to its depositors. All of us have checking accounts in here, right? So, and the bank owner walk away with some profit. Not only the bank collect interest, take these large corporations. These large corporations understand that they needed to add finance, not only selling technology or cars. Like PayPal, Apple, Toyota, Wayfair, all have a finance department. When you go buy a car, they offer you financing as well. So essentially, they're trying to make $2 off of one sale. So guys, Anitra and I are not here saying stop being a realtor, stop buying and holding, stop fixing and flipping, stop wholesaling. We saying that you have to add finance to what you're doing. And the good thing about us and what we do, it only takes 4 to 5 hours a month, right?
That's it.
So the first way we started being on the receiving side of interest is what we're here to talk about today is Vertical Capital, our private money lending company. When you fill out a loan application, you always hear the property is with the underwriter, your file is with the underwriter. So Anitra and I created our underwriting criteria. Our underwriting criteria is 65% of LTV, that's loan to value, 80% of the purchase, and 100% of the construction. We don't do any credit checks.
At least we're trying not to.
Yeah.
Sometimes people make it really hard, but
yeah, definitely. So we had to create our terms. We have 6 to 12 month terms. We had to develop our loan documents, determine the draw process, and we started raising capital. Just like the bank have depositors, we have capital partners. And our capital partners, we require $100,000 minimum investment, and that's cash in the retirement account.
So look, we do have this deal for anyone who's interested in coming on as a capital partner. We do have this deal available that we're raising capital for. We've already committed to the deal. This is a property. It is a 7,000 square foot house. The owner or the borrower is actually the current owner. They put all their cash inside this property. So of course they ran out of cash. They need $250,000 to complete it. It's 7,000 square feet. It has 5 bedrooms and 4.5 baths. If you can see, we call this spread right here called protective equity. That's 62%. And the protective equity is our cushion, right? So if anything happens, we got a lot of room to be able to get off this property. Anybody knows property in Mandeville? We're all in at 250. I'm sure we can get off this property really quickly if something was to happen, right? And that's an LTV of 38%. So we generally average, like you said, our LTVs is 65%, but across our loan portfolio, we're probably at 61 or 62% on average. So for all those people that saying these deals don't exist, getting below your traditional 70%, they do exist. I want to give a definition here. So private money versus hard money. We run in these circles and sometimes we can get not quite understanding which one is which and things like that. From my experience, I think I got my first hard money loan back in 2008, right? And so again, these terms have changed throughout the years or throughout the decades so far, right? Hard money is any percent above what you would normally qualify for. So if the bank is averaging, I think 7 to 8% now, but you qualify for like 8.1% and I charge 8.2%, to me that's hard money, right? Because you could have gone to the bank and you could have gone and got traditional financing. Private money to me is the source of the capital. So we kind of bridge the two, right? We're not tied to institutional capital. I don't have a source of billions of dollars pumping out on Wall Street, right? So any capital that's coming from a private individual, and we have capital partners that are private individuals, they don't have money tied to an institution. And we also use our own cash as well inside our deals. So that's why I call it private, AKA hard money. So I just wanted to give that clear definition.
All right, so we went over the first way. Here's the second way. We transitioned to the receiving side of interest by recapturing some of the interest we already paying, right? So remember those stats. 34.5% of the average American income goes towards interest, 30% of the average American income goes towards taxes, and 5% of the average American income goes towards savings. Wouldn't you rather invest with this 34.5% or the 5%? Which one? All right, we started recapturing interest, right? You probably already heard of this concept, the infinite banking concept. Infinite banking is simply the process of becoming your own bank to finance items you already buy. So this is not changing your lifestyle. And you are creating your own personal financing system. Now, what is a financing system? Let's just say you want to buy this lawnmower here. All right, you're either going to use cash, credit, or a loan to purchase this lawnmower here. And this is called a financing system. I know we have some real estate investors in here who do seller financing. Seller financing is a financing system. What we are trying to accomplish with the infinite banking concept is creating your own bank. So instead of using this credit card to buy this lawnmower here and paying interest to this credit card, you are creating your own personal financing system to start paying interest to your bank. So you're building wealth automatically with the purchases you already buy. Here's a real example.
This is a real life example. So Will, some people might know Will. He's an investor down in New Orleans. He's also one of our capital partners. Remember that $35,000 that we grew in about, I think with him, like 7 or 9 months with him, right? So in this instance, infinite banking, a lot of people focus on the life insurance, right? You can do infinite banking from a checking account. You can do infinite banking from underneath your mattress. It doesn't matter where the money is sitting. It's all about the process. This account has a borrowing capacity of about 50% right now. So he can borrow up to $17,000 and pretty much kind of do whatever he wants. In this case, there's this book here. This is the Infinite Banking book, right, by Mr. Nash, right? He's the grandfather. He's the one who created this. He talks about being an honest banker, right? The only way this system works is 1, you have to be lending, and 2, you have to be an honest banker to yourself. So in this instance, Will took $5,000 out his account, right? Not the full 50%. His money is in 2 places right now, right? So $5,000 is still sitting in this brokerage account and it's still earning interest. So he borrowed at 6.25%. This is a rental property. It's a double. It's probably cash flowing about $3,000 a month. I'm not really sure. But that's kind of like where we at in New Orleans on 3 bedrooms, right? 15 aside. And so you got $3,000 coming to Will. He gave himself a loan at 10%, right? So now what's happening here? His banking system, Will's banking system, is growing every month at a 2.75% on the arbitrage that he just created, right? Now, Will is doing this for rental property. Vertical Capital is doing this a little bit different by us continuing to extend loans out to other fix and flippers, right?
Yeah.
So our arbitrage is way higher because we created our own interest rate, right? And again, remember the 5,000, although it's sitting in this asset, this appreciating asset, it is also still sitting here, earning money as well. And then he's paying himself back. And now it's creating a 2.75% arbitrage.
Yeah.
And this is how you're able to grow your capital in such a short period of time.
So his bank is earning 2.75% interest. He doesn't have to offer equity. So think about when you're putting the deal together and you don't have enough money for the down payment. You're gonna find someone else who have the money and may offer an equity position. So in Will's case, he don't have to offer equity because his banking system is the equity partner. All right, and Anitra mentioned the money is in two places, right? So it's in a brokerage account where it's in a compounding interest environment, and he put it in real estate where it's collecting rent and appreciating at the same time. So that $5,000 is working overtime.
Look, I want to jump into something else too,
Yeah.
where you said some people at the down payment, well, a lot of people do when they don't have the cash, you actually ask the bank to increase that loan, right? And so now you're using way more leverage. And sometimes this is how you get in a pickle when property values tend to depreciate when we get into a market cycle such as the one that we've experienced, right? Because you entered into that market cycle over leverage. And guess who has the money? The bank.
Yeah.
And so guess who's in a good position? The bank, right? So if you have your own banking system, the $5,000 is small, but as you continue to grow, of course, you might get in a situation where you need $20,000 or you need $50,000. Well, instead of over leveraging with the bank, you now keep that money inside your own bank and be an honest banker.
So what is the cost? The average American with a college degree pays almost $500,000 in interest to a financial institution over their lifetime. So the cost for one individual is approximately $500,000. And why is this important? This strategy allows you to build wealth and preserve family wealth for generations. The difference between someone who uses these strategies and someone who doesn't use these strategies can be 6 to 7 figures. And guys, you are building wealth without changing your lifestyle because you are purchasing items you are already buying. All right, the third way we transition to the receiving side of interest is by implementing a strategy we call the income machine.
Yeah, so let's go back to, again, we're going to take Russell, a humble truck driver. Again, we grew his cash liquidity up to $63,648 in a year in 5 months. We also have Will again, where we grew his cash liquidity again to $35,567 in 9 months. And then we have Keith, who has 30 units, and he lives in Ohio, and we grew his cash liquidity to $37,000 in 7 months. So here's the characteristics of the income machine. Again, this is some strategies that we learned, we paid lots of money for, but it mimics the infinite banking concept. But I'm going to tell you, it builds instant cash liquidity. If you know anything about the infinite banking, they always tell you, hey, use a life insurance policy. It usually takes about 3 to 5 years to get that cash value to even begin the process. Well, the income machine here, on day one, the day that you started is the day you get cash liquidity. It's not a life insurance policy. It immediately produces recurring monthly income. That $35,000, what we talked about here, is he's producing income with that $35,000. Not only is it growing interest, the $35,000 is also paying him at least 3% every single month, right? And it's in a compounding environment, and we use the velocity of money to keep that going really, really quickly, right? And that's how he was able to get that cash in such a short period of time. It requires a monthly capital contribution that never ever changes over the life of its span, right? You don't have to continue that. It's just like a life insurance policy. You might have to do a monthly payment where we're building up our capital, where we're building up our cash reserves, right? And then over time, it replaces you, the operator. So at this particular point, at a certain time, depends on how fast we're moving. During like about 24 to maybe like 5 to 7 years, it'll replace you in your entire income every month, right? And it mimics the bank in that we are mimicking mortgages with you.
Yep. So guys, I have a question for you. Are you struggling with your finances? Do you feel stuck in your real estate journey? Trust me, I know the feeling all too well. When Anitra and I shifted our focus from just real estate investing to truly understanding finance, that's when everything changed for us. We went from being asset rich but cash poor to being both asset rich and cash rich. Over the past 11 months, Anitra and I have been pouring everything we learned over the last decade into building our vertical capital finance community. Inside, you will find masterclasses on private money lending, paying off debt, building family wealth, and so much more. If you're ready to take your business and your finances to the next level, and you want to learn directly from us, join the Vertical Capital Finance community for free. Just click the link in the description and hop in. This is for anyone who's serious about building real wealth in their life. We can't wait to see you on the inside. Now, let's get back to the video. What is the cost of not doing this? We already mentioned the stats with the average American income pays $500,000 in interest, and there's opportunity cost, right? If Jay is so kindly enough to invite us here next year, you will see Russell, Will, and Keith accounts over 6 figures. So what does that cost to you? But we have a real example. We have Terrence, we have Russell, regular investing versus income machine. And I know this example in and out because Terrence, this is my cousin, and Russell, that's my brother. At this point, they both had $47,000. But Terrence total contribution was $36,000. And it took him 2 years to accomplish. And Russell, total contribution was $27,000, and it took him 10 months to accomplish. So the cost to Terrence was $9,000 in 14 months. That's a major cost. And he just got on board with doing it the way we suggest. That's the end of our presentation. So if you have any questions, we're gonna open up the floor for any questions.
Oh, yo, follow us on YouTube. We talk a lot about private money lending. We talk a lot about finance. So if you want to kind of understand like how we underwrite our deals, what we do and stuff like that. A lot of people think because we don't do credit checks and we don't do backgrounds and we don't do, I'm not asking you for W-2s and all your little financials like a traditional bank. People think it's really, really easy to get a loan. It is. It is if you don't bring trash, right? Yeah. You got to bring a really
good deal,
really good deal. Out there with one of our capital partners, she became a capital partner because I denied her twice on 2 loans, and that made her feel super, super comfortable. And again, at that particular time, we were asking $50,000. That made her super comfortable at giving us $100,000.
Well, 200 at one point.
Yeah, at one point. Yeah. She did 200 at one point.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions or anything like that?
Construction type deal. Like, what do you consider value? Is it appraised value or cost of business?
So we do after repair value, right? And so we don't do appraisals if it's within our reach, right? So if it's in New Orleans, because I'm a real estate agent, so we just dive in on MLS. We kind of know what the cost of construction kind of goes for, right? And so we'll do 65% of the ARV. It doesn't matter if it's new construction, fix and flip, if you're trying to just do an acquisition to just kind of get to permanent financing. So we specialize in bridge financing. Right now it's just 6 to 12 months is kind of like our longest term. That doesn't mean that if you were like in escrow and we're not gonna foreclose on you, at least not yet, but yeah, so we'll if you're in escrow plus or minus a few weeks, a few months or whatever, you're good there. We won't foreclose on you. So we are lending here in Baton Rouge. We haven't gotten a deal yet in BatonRouge, but we've always had it open. Huh? We've always we've always had it open. So we try not to go. I'm still trying to learn y'all area a little bit. We try not to go too rural if that makes sense. I don't know. I thought Baker was rule. I might be out of my mind for saying that, but I saw some stuff and it was kind of little too low. We don't necessarily have a hard minimum, but then there's just some deals that just not, it's just simply not worth the time, right? We wouldn't make any money on it.
Yeah.
We are leaning more towards a $50,000 minimum. Though.
Yeah.
On the leverage that you had for your lending products, you said 80%. Do you, based on experience, do you change that, or are you willing to adjust that?
Nah, we're not gonna flex on that. In my experience, it's just. I mean, if you're asking for as a possible being a lender, it's not good to change your numbers, no matter what the experience level is, right?
But we would consider it if you have additional collateral.
Yeah.
So if you have like a free and clear property, we would consider going up on the LTV for the subject property.
Okay.
So the overall LTV fits under the 65%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you have like a maximum ratio that you don't want to go above when it comes to like purchase price of a property? And like, let's say you have an $80,000 project cost, it's a $50,000 purchase for the property itself.
No.
You don't have like a ratio, like a minimum ratio requirement?
No, yeah.
What if you are the first lien holder?
We're always gonna be first lien holder.
Yeah.
We typically would not come behind. It's an absolute no to come behind anything that's short term. I wouldn't come behind. There's some people out there talking about coming behind in subject twos. Nah, that's not a position you want to put. That's not a position I want to put my capital in.
What's some of the stipulations? If somebody was to come to me and say, "Hey, I want to be a partner in capital invest." What's like behind the scenes?
Well, it's strictly passive for the capital partner. We find a deal, we underwrite the deal, we service it, we manage the draw process. So it's really a passive position. All we ask is that you commit to the deal for at least 12 months so we could prove ourselves and show you that we could grow your capital. But no stipulations, and we do everything.
So it's 12-month turnaround, basically.
Well, we
ask that you just stay in 12 months because most of our loans are averaging 10 to 12 months. So if you come on board and we stick your money in a property, we just ask that you hold out for 12 months.
There's a certain amount, or it's just case by case properties, or
Well, we have a $100,000 minimum in his cash or retirement account. We have some people that use line of credits before, but a line of credit is like adjustable rate, so
it's a little bit
it's a
riskier.
risk. Yeah, it's a risk that you have to take if you use a line of credit. Yeah.
So your prescription period, well, maybe I shouldn't say prescription period, but your term limit is 12 months.
Yeah, it's 12 months. Like I said, what happens after 12 months? Hopefully you got rid of the property. And if you didn't, typically, we've had people that come. We do extensions. So inside of the loan documents, it's an automatic built-in extension. You just kind of gotta tell me in writing. It could be text message or whatever. I think it extends automatically for 1 or 2 months or 3 months. I can't remember.
60 days. It automatically extends.
It all
for
60 days,
yeah.
right? But again, it's you're talking to us, right? And so my pet peeve is communication, right? Don't go ghost on me. If you go ghost, that really,
a red flag.
Yeah, that really pushes me to do something awful, and I don't want to do anything awful. I think altogether, we've only since 2000, we started in 2021.
Yeah, 2021. Yeah.
So we just took back one property. That was a new construction, but we also gave him 2 years to get it done.
Yeah.
So you see what I'm saying? I just took it back on March 5th, the day after Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
But we extended the loan back in 2023.
Yeah.
So it was a situation.
Yeah. What'd you say, Tyler? How you doing, man?
So if somebody was looking to get some funding in here, what would be the process they go to as far as to get in contact with y'all as an application process, and what would be step one?
Yeah, so you can go to our website and fill out the application. And our underwriting process is 24 to 48 hours. So we'll get you an answer within 24 to 48 hours. unlike, other hard money lenders and bank finance, and they probably take weeks to get you an answer. But yeah, just fill out the application and fill out the application as detailed as possible, because that helps us make a decision.
Yeah, so when people come and they put their name on the application and they don't have a property, no.
Yeah.
Or
they
you
don't have
you
a contract.
You don't have a
Yeah,
contract.
yeah.
So if you, I'd rather you kind of call us first, right? If you don't have a contract. But if you don't have a contract, we get applications all the time. So it's like if you don't have a contract, that application is incomplete, and we got to move to the next one, right? We got to keep it moving. Our time is. We do this because we want freedom, time freedom, right? I don't want to have to chase after you for your paperwork on the beginning of the application. And for those of you who are thinking about becoming lenders, that's typically a red flag, right? If the person is not detailed on the application, or they lack a certain level of communication, do you trust this person to manage your money? You got to ask yourself that question if you're thinking about becoming a lender, right? Yeah. And so those things, I'm the one that receives the applications first, and because I'm trying to get you an answer right away, it's important that the application be completed in a timely fashion. Sometimes just looking at the application, I can call him and say, hey, we got a deal.
Yeah.
Before I even look in MLS, I can say this, and I can confidently send you a response without even going through the entire underwriting process. But when you don't complete the application, you don't put a property in there, you don't put your construction costs in there, you don't tell me how much it costs, I don't know any of these numbers, what am I evaluating?
Yeah.
You're putting it very lightly, you're wasting my time, and you just wasted your time too by filling it out, because I can't give you an answer on something that's imaginary.
Right.
Anybody thinking about becoming a lender?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, we can talk.
Look,
Yeah.
Scan this real quick, and you can schedule a call with us.
That's what I need.
Yeah, partner with us. Yeah. So whoever looking to be a lender through Vertical Capital, they could scan this QR code, and we could schedule a presentation where we go through our entire process. It's a $100,000 minimum investment. Yeah.
The call is free though.
The call is free.
It take about 60.
Yeah.
We take about 60 minutes to tell you and to show you everything that we've been doing. We want you to be comfortable, with us, and so we're gonna go a little bit deeper on a lot of the deals that we've done in the past and show you the different equity spreads that we have.
And if you're ready to take action right away, we could put you in that deal we mentioned. Yeah.
Right.
I just want to make a statement that I appreciate thoroughly what you all are doing.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Paul.
Thank
It
you.
feels good coming from y'all's perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I truly appreciate what y'all doing. For sure.
Right.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I hope people add finance. Like I hope you guys think about adding finance to your business. If it's not today, maybe sometime in the future or a year or whatever. I think it's super, super important to add it to your business, right?
Yeah.
You're missing out. The guys, which is you gotta learn how to trap every dollar is what somebody told us, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're doing this for yourself, you're starting to trap every dollar without having to necessarily pick up every hammer and nail and and board. Because I think right now we're so used to being taught on the internet the traditional way of, hey, you got to go find a house. Hey, you got to go find a hammer. You got to go to, in the beginning, I used to be off and I wasn't off, right? Mm-hmm. I used to work at Home Depot, and I used to literally work 7 days a week, right? Running after these properties. I worked at Home Depot, but never left Home Depot. I was the person picking up the materials, bringing the materials. I don't know if anybody ever been in that position where you picking up materials, dropping materials off, running here, running there, and before you know it, it's like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and I've been up since 7 in the morning, running and chasing behind properties. I did it the hard way, but that was in the beginning, right? But now, we let everybody else run behind Home Depot and run behind that, and you sit back and just collect our, what is it called? The mortgage?
Yeah.
And sit back and collect the mortgage and again, manage the draw process. I really love it.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you.
How quick can y'all close, like from submitting the application, getting it approved to closing?
We had a closing that was like 72 hours before, right?
Yeah, we closed. Well, they ended up pushing it back. We were ready in 72 hours. That's a good question, Jay, but everything is based off the applicant. So how quickly
In the
can...
title company, too.
In the title company.
Yeah.
So we like to say we close as soon as the title is cleared.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if the two applicants, we had one that we closed in like 9 days, one in 72 hours. But those two people, they were ready.
Yeah.
They had everything. They were on it. They had the insurances.
Yeah.
They checked all the boxes on our pre-closing checklist. They were just on it. They were phenomenal borrowers.
Yeah.
So what's the interest rate and is it points?
Yeah,
That's
so
a good-
we charge 13 and 3. So 13%.
13%.
Yeah, 3 points and 13% interest only. And we also have a $9.95 fee and a $400 fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both of those are $9.95.
Both, yeah.
Okay, so it's like $1,500 fee.
Yeah.
And the 3 points.
Yeah.
13%.
Yeah.
Okay. So next
Now-
question. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Depending on the situation, depending on the equity spread, right? Like I told you, we want to stay within that 65%. If we have room, we can get those points and fees and all that stuff financed into the loan, so you don't to help you to come out with less cash to close. So
Yeah.
we can finance
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And not many lenders do that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So question for the audience, based on that cost, does anybody feel like that's a high cost? Because I want to kind of talk about that from experience. Anybody, does that sound high to you guys? And just
Be honest. Be honest.
Just the whole deal.
Yeah.
So does anybody not know what points are? 3 points, what that mean? I know somebody here don't know what that is. Yeah. Let them know what the points are.
So a point is 1% of the loan amount. So if we doing a loan at $100,000, 1 point is $1,000, and it's 1% of the loan amount. So we charge 3, so it would be $3,000 in that example.
The name is originate. You know it by origination points, right?
Yeah.
So it's first to originate the loan, we charge 3%.
So anybody think that's high? Would think that's high?
Go ahead, so I could go off right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this,
Go ahead, so I could go off right now.
let's unpack that. So this, because yeah. So that's what I want to get some feedback. So it definitely can be high compared to a bank. So
Yeah.
then you say, so why do people use hard money? And I have used hard money before.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time I use private money, but it's the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
And it's the cost of losing that deal or not.
Right.
You know, me as a fix and flipper, it was times where it was a deal where I know I was gonna make clear at least 60,000 to 70,000,
Mm-hmm.
but I might have spent an extra 7,000 to 8,000 out of my pocket because I was going hard money. But
Right.
that's the cost of me getting that deal
Right.
versus walking away from it.
Exactly.
So you just gotta look at, is this deal worth paying the extra money in order for me to pull the trigger quick on this deal?
Exactly.
You may be dealing with a wholesaler where offers are on the table. They got 5 offers, 4 of them going with banks, and they need 30 days to close.
Exactly,
You might
yeah.
not have the cash, but you call vertical cap and say, man, I can close this thing next week. I give you what you're asking. A matter of fact, I need 10,000 off, but I can close it next week. These other guys, they need 30 days.
Yeah.
Now you got the deal.
Yep.
So you got to weigh out the cost. It's the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
So it just depends. It depends on how sweet the deal is.
Or you may not qualify for traditional funding.
Yeah.
They only loan you so many units.
Exactly.
And then you gotta move.
Exactly.
Do y'all have that situation where, you will only loan on so many units, or is there like a certain cap?
So we loan, so to answer the question, single family, we go up to 1 to 4 units for single family. But if you're asking me how much you have, how much you're holding, we don't dive into how much you're actually holding, right? But if you are trying to do multiple loans with us, like at the same time, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna let you finish one loan first.
Yeah. We have to start a relationship first. You know, after you show that you could complete a deal, then we may consider it. And also your cash liquidity have to be there to be able to afford 2 loans and all of the, your properties you already own. So we look at your cash liquidity as well. Yeah.
And I think another thing that you guys can think about too, if you using, vertical capital for a deal, and this is gonna be a huge rehab project that's probably gonna drag out, you could always use them to acquire the property and go back within a few months and refi with that commercial bank.
Yeah.
With that local bank.
Yeah.
But you use them to acquire the deal, then you can go back and refi.
Yep.
So that way over time you still saving some money, and it's a win for everybody.
Yep.
So I think. So.
What is the prepayment penalty required?
So we require the loan to be out at least 90 days. We haven't established what the payment penalty would be, but we require at least 90 days. Yeah.
Which is basically 3 months of our interest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't like pay. I want to learn more about it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, with the 100,000, I give you the 100,000. Do y'all pick the project, or do y'all come in here and say, "Hey, this is what we're thinking about doing"? Like,
Yeah.
how does that?
Well, our capital partners give us full autonomy to make the decisions, so we would pick the property.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got guaranteed return, like, you have like a time frame where you're guaranteeing a certain percentage, or?
Yeah, 10%.
Okay.
That's what we pay out. We charge 13% to the borrower, and we pay out 10%.
And y'all-
Yeah, and we keep 3%. Yeah.